Call to order the meeting of the Rutherford County Regional Planning Commission for June 9th, 2025. It's good to see each and every one of you here. I'm going to ask at this time that you please stand for our prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, led this evening by Chairman Jeff Phillips. Thank you, and you may be seated. Thank you, Chairman Phillips. Sorry for the delay this evening, but we've had had changes of schedule for different meetings. June and July are going to be difficult for all of us. This room in here, come July, has got some changes as far as sound system and things of this sort. So there's going to be construction in here. So we've got meetings that are on top of each other, and we're sorry this happened to you tonight, but we will get it underway and going that way. Ask Madam Secretary to have roll call determination of quorum.
Jim Averwater. Jeff Phillips. Present. Mike Cush.
Present.
Lee Bogle. Here. Charlotte P. Here. Trey Gooch.
Here.
Jim Thompson. Here. Michael Shirley. Jason Beavers. Here. Amber Brown. Here. Pettis Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Next is approval of our minutes for April 28th, 2025, and I ask that our Vice Chairman Lee Bogle do that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minutes for the April 28th meeting minutes are in good order. Therefore, I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, they have been approved. Any public comments?
No, sir.
No public comments for this evening. Items withdrawn or deferred?
Yes, sir. The agenda you have before you is accurate. There was one case that we did pull off the agenda. I don't believe anybody's here for that. I asked some folks out in the lobby area prior to the meeting, but the case on Ocala Road, REZ 25014 was removed from the agenda by the applicant. So if anybody's here for the Ocala Road case, please know that that is not on the agenda.
Okay, we'll move into our new business, beginning with A, rezoning, zoning ordinance amendment request. All rezoning regulation amendments requests will be considered at the August 14th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting unless deferred or withdrawn by the Planning Commission or the applicant. Item 1 is Mohammed M. Akmal, MD, REZ 25012. Location is 7474 Lebanon Road. Commissioner District is Steve Piercy. Size of sites approximately 1.6 acres. Tax map 37, parcel 44.01. Existing zoning is residential medium density, RM. Proposed zoning to commercial general. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and good evening, everybody. This request is a result of a zoning enforcement action. This property was granted a Type 3 conditional use permit back in May 2005 for automobile sales. There's a copy of that conditional use permit that's been attached with your agenda package. You'll find it on your iPads. At some point, we're not certain when, the property started offering car repair activities, which were not part of their original conditional use permit approval. The complaint was made due to the number of cars being stored on the property along with noise from repair activities. We met with the applicant, I should say, met with staff and explained that they could either cease the repair activities to be in compliance with their conditional use permit that was approved prior to the current ordinance taking effect, or request a rezoning that, if approved, would allow him to continue those activities. So this application is a result of that discussion. Since the time of staff's meeting, they have taken steps to clean up the property. There are some storage vehicles in the back of the property, but it is compliant with the CUP beyond that. There is a hand-drawn concept plan showing the proposed layout of the property, which is pretty much what's existing right now. This gives the commissioners an idea how they're proposing to develop the property. You'll notice that there's 2 access points along Lebanon Pike on this property. This is a state road, so any improvements will have to have TDOT approval. We did tell the applicant, as part of this, we're going to expect to see a cleanup of the property as well as a more orderly layout presented, if you will, which would require a site plan approval. More than likely, TDOT's going to require them to only have 1 access as opposed to 2. We'll just have to see how that all plays out, but they will have to submit an engineered site plan consistent with our zoning criteria and regulations. Buffering would also have to be required between commercially and residentially zoned properties. Again, this would take effect upon redevelopment of the property. Engineered site plan would show that as well, and our performance standards would also apply. This property is located within the Walter Hill Village Neighborhood Center and along an urban corridor, both identified in our comprehensive plan, which do contemplate non-residential uses. We do believe the complaints, like I stated earlier, originated just due to the amount of cars on the property, the way they were stored on the property, and just the noise that was being generated. We do think that with an engineered plan and steps taken with buffering and whatnot to help alleviate some of those concerns, that this can coexist with the area. With that, we'll be happy to answer any questions. The applicant is present.
Commissioners, any questions or comments for the staff?
I'm just curious, it's more of a point of clarity. The property, like right beside, can you tell me what that zoning is?
Are you talking the one to the north of the property? The one kind of on top of it you're talking about? That's also zoned residential. That's also zoned residentially, I should say, excuse me. However, I will say that is actually going to the Board of Zoning Appeals on Wednesday for a separate case. I think the owner wants to do a home-based business. It was a similar type situation. The owner bought it to run his business out of. Turns out it's not zoned properly for that. We gave them the option. They said they were fixing up the house and wanted to live there. Again, this is to the north. So that's what they're going for the Board of Zoning Appeals for.
Okay. It didn't look like a residential, so that's why I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll ask that the applicant come forward at this time. Do they have any comments or anything, or you have questions for the applicant? The applicant here. Yeah. Would you like to come forward? Just come right here to the mic area, give them your name, and just stand right here and look around this way and speak to the commissioners.
Okay.
Give them your names and what your plans are for this property.
Okay. My name is Mohammed Akmal. I'm one of the doctors here in town. And basically, we've been in existence since 2005. And Bindi is my friend. He also runs the car lot himself. So basically, we're going to, like you say, try to get into the aspect of getting general commercial for the property and try to, run it just like a car lot, without the restrictions of how many cars can be on the property. We generally don't have too many cars on the property anyway. The cars that we did have on the property were actually belongs to Bindi, and they did a lot of the repairs on the cars that they brought in for repair to be sold on the lot themselves. They weren't really offering too much to the outside public like that, as it was stated. But we're not planning on trying to get anything other than just an AutoZone sales. And Bindi, you want to add anything to it, or?
Yeah, this car lot is what I do really as a business. I buy some rebuilding or rack cars and bring it up there and repair it and sell it. I usually never have more than 20 cars at a lot because I'm a small dealership, and so always it's under like 12, 13, 14 cars. And what I'm asking right now to get permit that I can repair my own cars, not somebody else's cars, just my own cars, so I can run my own business up there. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Mr. P.?
Yes, and I apologize, we really had a hard time hearing what you were saying. You're going to have to speak closer to the mic.
Okay, well,
I'm a little confused. You buy cars and you repair them, and I didn't hear what he was
okay.
saying.
Basically, what he's saying is it's a, auto sales dealership cars that he buys. A lot of them have rebuilt titles, and some of them have clean titles. So, when he buys from auctions, there's cars that he'll buy that are wrecked, that needs to be rebuilt. And so what he was doing was rebuilding them on the site in the garage that we had in the back. It's a 40 by 40, 15 feet high garage that had a frame machine in it, and he did his own repairs in it with the people that were there. And that's what he was pretty much doing there at the car lot. And we're just asking for, being able to provide the usage of repairs on the property of the car that he's buying himself, not other people's cars in reality, as was stated. So basically, and we've cleaned up the property a lot. Those were previous photos. And so there's been a marked improvement.
We put the gates.
Yeah, we put gates, and we've done, and we're ready to do whatever it takes to get it into compliance.
Other questions? We'll get to that later. This is only for the commissioners right now. This is only the commissioners' questions. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, on your written plan here, you have a privacy fence and the garage in the back?
Yes, yes.
So will all the repairs be behind the fence?
Behind the garage, exactly. Matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it now. These are previous photos, but we've got a privacy fence already placed, and everything that we have is placed behind the garage fence line, so that there's no viewing of any cars that are brought in from outside that need repairs. So only the cars that are ready to go will be placed up front.
Commissioners, any more questions? Commissioner?
So by this hand-drawn map, you also own the properties next to this site?
Yeah, pretty much. I own 33 acres across the road.
Okay.
I own 2 properties right adjacent to it, and the individual that's requesting rezoning of the property that's going to do the home-based business, he also owns a property. If you're looking at it from the front road to the left of us, so basically I own both houses to the right of that property and 30 acres across the road. So basically, I'm kind of surrounding the whole property itself.
Okay. The noise complaint, I understand from the rebuilding of the damaged cars. What would be your hours of operation?
Actually, the noise complaint was from some of the tenants that were actually renting from me, and we got that taken care of. They were playing their music very loud. It wasn't really coming from the hammering, from what we got, because police came out to their house at 2 or 3 in the morning because they were playing, they were during the summertime,
Yeah.
they were having parties outside. And so the noise complaint was, in reality, was coming from the adjacent houses. And basically, the garage itself is enclosed, and it's got, garage doors. So whenever they're working, a lot of the sounds really doesn't come out from that area,
Okay. So, question for codes. Mark, to have this kind of business on this property, do they have to go through TDEC and make sure they don't have any oil spills, or do proper handling and disposal of oils and Freon and all that kind of stuff?
Well, to my knowledge, as long as they're not dumping fluids or anything, or disposing of any fluids or anything, then they're okay. But like I said, it depends how far they go, you know what I mean? As they, if they decide to, like, it's not exactly like a salvage yard where they're disassembling and they're losing a lot of fluids, you know what I'm saying? So typically, you don't run into that, you know, unless they create a problem.
A lot of these cars are not hit that hard where, you know, like the motors are open and they're losing fluid. I mean, if anything, it's more like fender benders and some cars that hit slightly in the front, but it doesn't really get into like major oil leaks or like, you know, freon leaks and stuff like that.
Mark, could I follow up with what you just said? If this were to be approved, would it allow them to do some of those things that Commissioner Cush restricted from doing those?
Well, as far, you might want to ask Mr. DeMoss as far as the zoning goes, but like I said, we've never treated in the codes department a car lot like a salvage yard, you know what I'm saying? If they're working inside their garage and so forth like that, it's not like they're disassembling these things. So as far as I know, they shouldn't be doing that, you know. They should just be working on cars in the garage, you know. They shouldn't be out here working on the garage on the exterior premises because they're not, it's the way I understand, they're not wanting to take the cars apart and salvage parts of them. They just want to fix what they have, like a repair shop, and then prepare them for sale. That's my understanding.
Right, and if I could, I'll kind of dovetail on what he was just saying about that. Anything that would be considered a salvage type activity would not be allowed in the commercial zoning, commercial general zone. That would have to be more of an industrial classification for like a scrap operation or something like that. So that would not be allowed. So yeah, from our understanding, this was just going to be strictly repair along with the car sales.
If I could follow up, you said you've been in business for 20 years?
Yeah, we've been there since 20 years, yeah.
Here at this site?
Yeah.
And it's always looked like that?
No, it hasn't. It always looked like that. Basically, when the guys started repairing some of the cars, you know, I wasn't there a lot, and so the guys back there would, you know, kind of place cars as they were brought in into different places during the night and day, and they sat like that. But now we're going to make sure that they are brought to the back, you know, at all times. But that's an old photo. The new one, I mean, is totally different. I mean,
Yeah, that looks like that photo was dated January of this year, so it is several months old. So he's accurate with that.
Ask you a question, and it may not be none of my business, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Doesn't look like that now because someone came to you and told you that it was unacceptable? So you didn't clean it up yourself, someone made you do that. What's to prevent you from going back to looking like that in the future?
yeah, I mean, we're going to try our best to stay in compliance. I mean, we will.
Say that
make
again,
sure.
I can't hear you. Talk in the mic.
I said, I will make sure, because I'm not there all the time, I'm at work a lot, but I will go by and make sure that they will follow compliance. I mean, you know, at this time it's ran by Bendy's Auto Sales, and, you know, we're going to make sure that it's acceptable.
I'm a big believer in past performance predicts future performance. That's unacceptable, and if I was your neighbor, that would be unacceptable to me. What are you going to do to ensure that it will meet standards? What are you going to do?
When I applied for dealership license like 5-6 years ago, what I understand that it's going to be only 20 cars in the front. I didn't know it was supposed to be 20 cars total in the front and in the back. So I started to have no more than 20 cars in the front for sale. And the one in the back behind the fence, I did not know there is a restriction for it. So I let it, what happens, but after I find out there was the restriction on it, then I'm on top on it. I will make sure it's clean and make sure I compliance for what has been asking for it. Yep.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of questions. I guess I never did understand the hours of operation. If I'm your neighbor, what's the hours of operation there?
Well, generally, Bendy, you know, when he runs the shop, he gets there around 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning, and he finishes around 4 or 5 in the afternoon.
So nothing going on at night
No,
after dark or whatever? No paint booth, you're not painting, you're just putting on fixed parts, don't need no paint on them, they come pre-painted,
Yeah, just repairing cars, that's it.
no paint.
No paint.
What's the formula for parking, Doug, in a situation, 5 acres, is that what I'm hearing, roughly 5 acres?
Yeah, the zoning ordinance that handles parking and determines parking requirements by the use of the property. So we'll need to make sure, like I said, this is, I think part of the issue too wasn't, I mean, yes, it was partially the noise, it was partially the layout of the property. I think having a more definitive plan, just to make it more orderly, I think will help quite a bit. We'll make sure that based on our zoning requirements that they have enough customer parking and, employee parking. That's really what we'll be looking out for. Of course, they'll have a display area that they'll be able to park their cars. They'll show that, that's fine. But, and then of course the area in the back, like I said, behind the fence and everything where they're having the cars they're working on, fine. But to answer your question, it's dictated by the use of the ordinance.
I counted over 40 on this picture here. It sounds like you probably cleaned that up. I'm understanding. You see the confusion here for me? I'm saying I got 20, but I count 40. Are you a licensed dealer now? Are you a licensed dealer?
Yeah, I'm licensed.
You're a licensed dealer, but you don't care whether you sell to the public or not, right? I mean, you're really not after the public sales.
I don't.
You're not really wanting public sales, doesn't sound like it. They're all your cars, and you're selling to your friends. Is that what I heard earlier?
No. He sells to the public.
Okay.
But sometimes, he bought more cars than the 20 that was at all times. We didn't know it was at all time. We thought it was 20 up front,
In the front, yeah.
but not restricted to what was in the back.
Okay.
So he felt that, you could have a number of cars, but at all times, there, like you said, we thought it was just 20 in the front, and that means 20 at all times. That includes employees parking, the people that work there, and the cars that were on there have to be all 20 at one time.
And one thing I'd like to add is I'm not selling salvage titles cars. I'm buying it, I'm rebuilding it, sending paperwork to the state of Tennessee. They come to inspect it, give me a rebuilt title, then I sell it to public. Otherwise, I will not sell salvage title.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Mr. Beavers?
When the vehicles are getting delivered, where is the drop-off? Do they pull into your parking lot, or do they do it on the main road?
Yeah, they come into inside parking lot.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I do, Mr. Chair. So, thank you. So I'm seeing about 25 cars roughly and a boat parked in the back. And I'm guessing you can work on a couple of cars at one time, maybe. So how long does it take typically to repair one of these cars?
It depends on the cars and the parts, when you can get the part and where. Some cars take 1 week, some of them take 1 month to get ready.
And they're typically, people are working on 2 or 3 at a time, so you're looking at 2 or 3 cars per week being repaired.
Yeah, you see where I'm going. This is a pretty good supply that you've got in the backyard, and I'm assuming you have 1 or 2 coming in every week.
Yeah. It's not 1 car per week. It's probably like 2 or 3, and sometimes it could be 4 cars, depending on.
So how many of these? I'm thinking some of these cars you get into and say, well, it's got some problems I didn't anticipate, and I'll never get my money out of it, and it just sits on the lot and becomes future parts to take you salvage parts off of the car, and these cars never go away. It's a big concern.
There is some cars like that, and if we find the cars we cannot repair it, we do not keep it there. We're going to send it back to the auction and sell it at the Copart.
Yeah. What he's saying is basically, if there's cars that you can't repair, we don't dismantle it. Those cars are sent right back to the auction. Like if the parts are not available or if they've been hit, unexpected damages that you didn't see, like motor damage, we send them right back and they re-auction them to other people. So they go right back to the same auction.
Anyone else? If not, thank you. You may be seated. We will now open it up for public hearing. And what that means is that if there's anyone here that is wishing to make a statement either for or against this zoning change, we'll ask that you'll come forward at this time. You'll have 3 minutes. You'll have lights up here. You'll notice on the wall there. Green, of course, you're okay. Yellow, it means you're going to have to hurry up. Red means you need to stop, just like out here on the street. And when I say stop, I do mean to stop. So your time's over. So we'll begin with the first one. I believe we have someone coming over here. We'll just let you use one of the handheld mics, if that's okay. Give us your name and your address, okay? Speak to her.
Good evening. My name is Brad Mankin. I'm a resident of Waldron Crossing. Waldron Crossing is a wonderful family community adjacent the auto dealership that Dr. Akmal was referring to. I believe our residents and commission have several things in common. We value our homes and farms. We want our property to increase in value. We all want our communities and farms to be safe, quiet, and peaceful. I'm sitting in this chair because I have ALS, but I'm hanging on. And for me, my home is the legacy I'm going to have for my wife and children. So wanted to let you know that if approved, the probability of Waldron Crossing losing value is very high, and here's a few reasons why. The noise level generated from that facility, others can speak to that. Additional road congestion on an already busy 2-lane road, a lot of safety hazards in terms of dropping off those vehicles. Third, the business has been an eyesore with no improvements made until recently. As the gentleman over there mentioned, the best predictor of the future is what's happening, has happened, and is happening currently. And finally, if this is approved, we're going to be swallowed up by commercial properties in an area that should have had this ever in the first place. There was a residential area, and we're being swallowed. I'm going to ask all the gentlemen, ladies up here, if they would vote yes, considering, and again, this is not personal because I know the doctor has a great reputation, and I commend him for his reputation in the community. But the owner maintains this property, two residential properties to the left, a residential property right across the street, and a large parcel of land down the road. The home right across the street has grass 4 feet high, but what's more important and salient is that there's many, many cars parked in behind there that without a doubt are connected to this dealership. So if they talk about how much is here, there's a bunch across the street in behind this house. Down the street on those acreages of land, all these areas have been unkept. The homes are dilapidated, trash in these other locations. But many cars have been also stored on that land back there. So when we talk about a number of vehicles, that's not exactly accurate. The last thing I would say is that if this is approved, we're going to see one property flip to commercial, the next one after the next one. Waldron Crossing was established by Dr. Max Moss, radiologist, some years ago. He built a great community that has grown in value. If this exception is approved, the direction will be downward for the exodus of residents. Where do you find auto body shops? You find them on Church. You find them on Broad. I believe these gentlemen have good product and they do a good job, but these places are entirely in the wrong location. A community like Waldron Crossing is a beautiful place, small but beautiful, and as this picks up momentum, we're going downhill, and then people will be leaving and bailing out. But for me, it's 5 seconds here. For me, it's so important because I'm trying to leave a legacy, and this legacy in question. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishes to speak?
Good evening. My name is Eric Palmer. We live in Waldron Crossing. We're in the cul-de-sac, which is probably the most direct spot behind where the body shop is located. I would say it's 100 to 150 feet from our back fence. We've just been inundated with the grinding noise, the typical sounds that you would hear in a body shop, pounding of metal. I don't know when you talked about taking cars and he gets them from in a wreck condition. A car hauler would sit on the side of the road and they would unload the cars. I'd never seen the hauler up in the lot that I remember, but they're unloaded there and then they're taken over. And of course, if they're wrecked, you know, they have to come apart. They start piecing, and you hear the sound of grinders. Environmentally, it's very disturbing for my wife and I. I can't even put it into words sometimes. We don't even go on our back porch. And as far as putting up a buffer, I don't even know if that would even help when you got grinders and hammers pounding. And them hammers will go like all night long, sometimes late in the evening. He talked about working day shift hours. It goes past day shift hours. And it's just a huge disturbance. It's nothing against the doctor and his property. Has nothing to do with that. We moved there in 2014. We had nice peace and quiet for the longest time. And it's very disturbing for my wife and I to live here. We love our neighbors, our subdivision, everything about it. And it's just been really rough. And we've even considered if this goes through, we're going to maybe have to move. We don't want to, but that's where we are with this. And again, I can't say it enough. It's nothing personal against them. We moved to the country for peace and quiet, and it's almost been everything but. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Good evening. You might want to pull that down.
Okay, thanks. Hi, my name is Stephanie Steiner. My husband and I also reside in Waldron Crossing. I feel if there's a community here to back up this eyesore, we all need to come up here. We all need to speak, because if we're not heard, the commissioners here are not going to know who's here to support what we're fighting for, and that is to protect each one of us, our legacy, our property, our families. No offense, no downplay, no bad talking to the doctor and his property, but when you drive towards our neighborhood, the eyesore is there. It's all around us. You got the 33 acres over there. You got the old yellow house there. We've got to be able to follow the rules. We have rules. It seems like people can break the rules. They don't have to follow the rules. And all we do is pass paper, and we reward the people for not respecting what we hold dear, the value of our community. It's heartbreaking. You know, this is a residential. There are places for commercial. There are places to do this type of work, and this is just not the area. We have to stand up for ourselves. This is our community. This is our livelihood, and it's just a giant trash can. I mean, there's just no joy. You leave work, you start coming home. Everyone here can agree. And we all need to come up and stand and voice an opinion for our property. You know, we work hard too, and we follow the rules, and we follow the laws of our community. And I just don't think you can just scrap it all and ask for forgiveness and then you're granted, because it's going to be commercial and it's just going to be boom, 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 boom. And we do have, it's just one property after the next, and we deserve better than that. So I hope everyone out here can come up and at least announce your name and stand up for your home and for your family, because I may look young, but we have health, qualities as well, and this is our legacy. We can't just flip homes and go and keep running and keep running. We found this place for a reason. So if you guys are here to protect your community and your home, please stand up here. Please come up and voice your opinion. We want everyone to succeed. Everyone deserves the great American dream, but you got to do it the right way. And there's nothing wrong with protecting the beauty of this country and this community and this land. And the trash has got to be cleaned up. But I thank you for your time, and I hope others can speak. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Tim Shannon. I live at 7506 Carnegie Way, which is in the Waldron Crossing subdivision. Sorry, I am crying down. Yeah, and I too share the sentiment. I want to reserve the property value or withhold the property value that we've built. And, you know, I have nothing against the doctor, but the properties that are in close proximity to us that are operating at a commercial capacity, they're loud, they're disruptive. I can't speak to which you know, what sounds come from which properties exactly, but I do know that you know, there's times where there's smoke coming from these commercial properties, or I'm sorry, these properties on Lebanon Road that you know, my kids will be outside and it engulfs the area. We can't breathe. We have to go back in the house. You know, when we first bought our house, had we known some of these properties were going to be, could potentially be rezoned for commercial, we wouldn't have bought the house. And you know, we enjoy the peace, the quiet, you know, when it is peaceful and quiet, we enjoy it. But as stated, there's loud clanking, sounds of heavy machinery being used, but it's enough to, as I stated, had we known this was a possibility, we would not have purchased our house. And we just want to reserve the qualities of our neighborhood that brought us there in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, anyone else?
Hi, my name is Lindsay Ray, and I live at 232 Waldron View Drive, also in the community. I will say that the property has very much been cleaned up, and I do appreciate that if it's going to stay. However, I really don't, I thought it was already commercial, so I just thought we lived with it, knowing when we bought the house. But for us, if that one goes commercial and the next one goes commercial and across the street goes commercial, then it really does kind of bring down at least the quality of, I won't say quality of life, but quality of living that we kind of signed up for when we moved into Rutherford County and going to Walter Hill Elementary, and our kids growing up going to those places. So anyway, if it does stay, please keep it clean. But for us, we'd appreciate it kind of to not go commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good afternoon. My name is William King. I reside in the community as well at 301 Amazon Way Ridge. I'm on the back corner, so I'm not directly, bothered, I guess, by some of the noise and things like that, but I'm again in the far corner. But I will say, there are times of congestion where there's difficulties with deliveries and stuff to that site currently. That holds up traffic, it's potentially unsafe and kind of dangerous. And then too, my environmental heart a little bit, I have concern just in general, just in terms of the cars that sit there a long time, are they being, properly stored, or are they, clean and safe for the community, for the animals and things like that. So anyway, that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Carol Mankin. I'm also a resident of Waldron Crossing subdivision.
And I have some of the similar concerns. The rezoning residential to community to commercial sets a precedent for allowing, as has already been said, further commercial development right in our front or backyards, so to say. And an example of this is only one of 2 rezoning applications that are going to be addressed this week alone. So it is a concern for us. The increased traffic, that's already been mentioned. And any business needs increased traffic to be successful. So that goes along with it. We understand that, and that's also why we're concerned. You acknowledge the increase in traffic on Lebanon Pike from 2022 to 2024. I've personally experienced it. As our neighbors have said, we've experienced the loading and the unloading, and of the vehicles, and you've also noted to us that there are no plans to widen Lebanon Pike, so that's not going to improve. It's just going to get worse. The increased noise, I'm not going to address that anymore. Everybody's already said that. My concern, which has been mentioned, is the environmental impact, and I know that that was stated by somebody here and addressed, and it was kind of just glossed over, but I don't know a lot about repairing cars, but I've had a car repaired, and I know what it is to have a car get wrecked and have things done. So with that said, there are things like batteries, there are coolants, there are lubricants, there are solvents that can be harmful to humans and harmful to the environment. And if it's not managed or disposed of properly, it's going to be a problem. And it may not be a problem today, but maybe in the future. And it's going to affect our health, the health of the animals, and just our whole area. And that is very concerning to me, that repair work was being done and it wasn't supposed to be. So do we even know that these things have been carried out and done correctly? Everyone has said the property has not been maintained, and the low curb appeal, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. I have safety concerns with the loading and unloading. The more traffic, we're going to have more accidents out there. All of these things together are going to lower our property values, and I think we're all really concerned about that, along with safety, health and welfare of our community and our children and our neighbors. And so why would this be appropriate when there are existing areas that are already zoned for and support this type of a business? Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Anyone else? If not, I'm closing the public hearing time. Commissioners?
Chairman, if I could ask Doug a question. Doug, this conditional use granted back in 20, I think, 5,
Correct.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Does that still exist?
Yes, it's still valid. When we adopted the new ordinance, well, I should say current, it's not really new, the current zoning ordinance back in 2013, there was a provision that we put in the ordinance that spoke of pre-existing conditional use permits that would continue in perpetuity unless something were to change. They've been out there, they've been operating this whole time, at least to the extent of car sales, which is what they were allowed to do. We just don't know when the repair activity started. So to answer your question, yes, it does still exist. So it's still a valid conditional use permit.
Mark, you may need to answer this, but I'm not sure. The conditions, there are 5 bullet points there. I'm not sure that any one of those 5 bullet points are still being met, or if any of them are being met. 20-foot strip, I see cars parked on the road. Parking located at the sides and the rear. I see cars in the front. There shall be no outside storage except vehicles and equipment. I see those kind of things. 20 vehicles, and we already count more than 20, and upon sale or transfer of the property, the condition will be void. That's the only bullet point that I can see that the conditions are being met. Why can't we pull that conditional use permit? Or why shouldn't we pull that?
Well, I think part of the reason that's where the enforcement issues came into play. You know, they submitted, they came into our office after we had the complaints. We realized that there was an issue. They wanted to try to go for rezoning of the property, because by rezoning the property, a lot of these conditions would go away, so to speak, because they would just be under the authority of the new zoning ordinance, the current zoning ordinance. So that's what they're asking for. Now, if this request tonight were to be denied, they would still be allowed to operate based on the parameters approved on the conditional use permit back in 2005. But like you said, they'd have to clean up the property, they have to remove the cars, keep it within everything that was approved back in 2005. I still think having an engineered plan would help us, and to the extent that we'd be able to at least they'd be able to have a more orderly layout of the property than currently exists. So, but that's why they're asking. They have the ability to ask at least before we have to take further measures for enforcement.
Request was denied. Would we pull the conditional use permit because they're not meeting those standards? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Well, it's not that you're putting me on the spot, it's just it's not exactly an easy question to answer, because this was approved under a previous zoning ordinance that we're no longer under. We would probably have to talk with our legal staff about how exactly this would work. I don't know if it could be pulled, but we could initiate enforcement measures on the property to make them comply with what was approved back in 2005.
Conditional use permit, in my mind, was to sell cars.
That's exactly what it was for. That's correct.
What they're doing right there, what they're doing now, does not adhere to that conditional use permit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
At least to the extent that the other activities other than selling cars, the additional activities, that's what doesn't comply.
I also heard, I think, the gentleman when they were up here saying that they didn't paint. I'm not sure what all those pictures are, but there's a lot of pictures of stuff being painted there.
Yeah, I believe this is, and Mike, you were controlling the computer, but I believe this is off their website. Is that correct? Yes. This is off their website.
Commissioner Brown.
So if it's off of their website and they're doing what's on their website, they're painting cars, and I just heard this gentleman say that they didn't paint cars.
Commissioner Brown.
So if this is not approved, the repair activities has to stop.
That's correct.
And that's the painting, the noise, all of those different complaints that we've heard, that would stop that, right?
Correct.
But no other improvements would happen aside for them getting back into compliance on what has already been.
I believe that is correct as well. I don't think if they're not making any changes to the site as far as changing the zoning and increasing the amount of approved activity, I don't think we would have anything to go back on them on and say, hey, you need to submit a plan. But by rezoning the property and adding those extra activities, that gives us the ability to say, okay, you need to submit a site plan and bring this into compliance. That's at least from our current standards for parking, buffering, those kind of things.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I'm a car guy myself and enjoy watching them being worked on and work on them myself. At least I used to. I don't much anymore. But my neighbor across the street is also a car guy, and he's restoring one now. And on the days he decides to work on it, it is very noisy, and he's just in paint. He's not doing any body work. And I see this website that now I understand it is what they are advertising to bring your car to us, and we're expert paint and restoration guys. I don't see this as auto sales. I see it as a mechanic shop or a body shop. And if we if we change this zoning to a commercial general zoning as requested, that kind of opens the whole door up for a whole lot of activities that are not just paint, body work, and auto sales. It could potentially be a lot of things with not a whole lot of restrictions on it. And he's got some pretty good restrictions that he came under that aren't, and as far as the conditional use permits that aren't being followed. If he had stuck with those and done auto sales, he could have lived peacefully in the neighborhood, but I don't think that I would want all of this body work continuing near my house. Therefore, I'm going to make a motion to deny this, and I don't know about enforcement and that sort of thing. That's up to the codes department. Maybe they can make some progress, but I don't want to see this get bigger than it is. So I move to deny.
Have a motion to deny.
I'll second.
We have a second. Further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. Just digging, if this thing passes like it stands right now and we continue to operate, one of the thoughts I had just listening, looking at this site with all these vehicles on it, is there a septic system here now for employees?
I can't give you an affirmative answer to that because I don't know one way or the other. If there's an existing structure or what looks like it used to be a house on the property, I would assume there has to be something there, but I don't have the record in front of me to prove one way or the other.
I would just say, based on the way they're parked, it would not be approved by TDEC today. There's not hardly any area there that doesn't have a car sitting on top of it, right? And when I see all cedars, that's always a bad sign for a septic system. So I just, as you going digging back from enforcement side, I think I'd ask that question. And I'd agree as well. To me, this is one of them that just to approve, I guess we're getting our eyes open tonight because we have a lot like this that comes up, somebody wanting to get it approved. We speculating a lot of times. Boy, I tell you what, that's brought the 5 acres ahead or 2 acres just south of this. Same request without a site plan, it'd be an easy approval most of the time. But in this case here, deception is ruling in this case. I just think we've been deceived by testimony. I mean, they're not being truthful, and it bothers me. So, most part, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Beavers.
I just want to agree with Commissioner Phillips about past performance. If you've got to be forced into bringing it the way it should have been, then I got a problem with that.
Okay.
Could you scan out where is the closest commercial zoning?
It's actual commercial zoning. It's actually, well, the commercial zone, it's not that far to the north, actually, into the Walter, the subdivision right to the north, either side of their entrance actually is zoned commercially, just never been developed. Now, as far as commercial property that's actually used for something, it's roughly a half a mile to the south. Right on the corners there, like way out. On the corner of each one, I believe, is zone commercial neighborhood going into the crossings at Walter Hill, and that was approved years ago. But as actually, you can see right to the south of the, Mike will kind of highlight where the subject property is. It's a little bit to the north. But yeah, Mike's highlighting those areas to the south. That institutional zone, that's the Walter Hill Church of Christ. That was just approved for institutional zoning just within the last couple months. You'll recall that coming through. Commercial neighborhood on the corner there of Holly Grove Road. Just a little further to the south, you've got some commercial services zoning. A little further to the south of that, there is commercial general, directly across the street on Lebanon Pike, right to the south of Holly Grove Road, and some more commercial general to the south of that. But so there is other commercially zoned property in the area. But as I like to tell people, every case stands on its own merits as far as making a decision as to its appropriateness in the area.
Unattached to this? None,
Sorry?
None.
The only thing attached to this subject property is that conditional use permit. And, again, that was at a time when zoning matters were handled differently in the county than they are now. A lot of the times they would just pass a conditional use permit without passing any kind of an associated zoning change with it. It was specific for that use.
Mr. Chair, before we vote, I just want to make a clarification for this committee and this body. Mr. Overwater did not say this in his motion, and I just want to make a clarification. We have a motion to deny the repairs that are going on in the body shop portion of this business, but we are still enforcing the 2005 conditional, what's the right word?
Conditional use permit.
Right. Now, however, although some of these don't appear to have been, these bullet points have been followed, that is a codes enforcement issue, which Mark now is aware and needs to enforce that. But the denial has nothing, in my opinion, and I want to go on record, the denial has nothing to do with the fact that some of the bullet points have not been followed on the conditional report.
Okay. We are voting to deny. It has a second, and we'll have a roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Jim Overwater? Yes. Jeff Phillips? Yes. Mike Cush?
Yes.
Lee Vogel? Yes. Charlotte P? Yes. Trey Gooch?
Yes.
Jim Thompson? Yes. Jason Beavers? Yes. Amber Brown? Yes. Pettis Reed?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion does carry. Has been denied. Moving now to item 2. Yassin, Dakkak, RE 25015. Location is 3612 Woodbury Pike. Commissioner District 4 is Robert P. Size of site is approximately 7.5 acres. Tax map 104, parcel 118. Existing zoning is residential, medium density. Proposed zoning is commercial services. Mr. Damasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. This rezoning request was also the result of a zoning enforcement action. County zoning enforcement officials received a complaint on this property back in August of 2024. Upon inspection, it was determined that the property was being used for automotive repair. We did meet with the owner applicant and explained the potential options, which ranged from removing all business activity to rezoning the subject property. The property owners began cleaning up the property and decided to pursue this application. You'll find on your iPads a submitted letter and concept plan demonstrating what their development intentions are. Again, similar to the last application we just considered, it's not a plan development, so this is not binding, but you'll see the plan does show locations for a body shop, paint booth, and office. This subject property does have frontage along Woodbury Pike. An engineered site plan would be required before development of the site. Should this application be approved, they would have to demonstrate compliance with parking, access, with our standards for this to be approved as a site plan. Depending on the scope of any improvements, we could require a traffic study, but at this time we have not. Buffering and performance standards would also apply. There are several non-residentially zoned parcels near the subject property. When you look at the zoning map included with your agenda packets, you will see that. One is immediately adjacent to the property, kind of surrounds it. We're uncertain as to whether the property is really currently being used as anything. When you look at the aerial photos and when you look at the Google Street Map here, it's difficult to say if that's even being used, but it is zoned commercially. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions. The applicant, I believe, is present and can answer questions as well. So with that, we'll entertain any questions from staff, for staff.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? If not, we'll ask that the applicants come forward, make a statement of what their plans are, and take questions from the commissioners. Come forward, just let's have your name.
Yassin,
and just stand right here behind that, and then you can address the commissioners.
Yassin, Dakkak. I'm the owner of the property.
Speaking to the mic.
Yeah,
might have pulled it.
I'm the owner of the property, 3612 Woodbury Pike. And here's my partner with me.
Right over here.
How long have you been running this as a repair shop?
We are the owner of the property. We don't have any, we lease it to someone, he do that, and we make him stop doing that, and we try to get it professional way to be zoning as a commercial, with to be a body shop as a professional way.
For over 2 years.
Almost 2 years. And he been doing the work without my permission, and then I make him stop after we got the letter from the city.
Commissioner Brown.
I'm not 100% sure I understood what you were talking about. You own this piece of property?
Yes, sir.
That's not all your stuff that's on it?
No, it's not mine. It's my.
It's the tenant, it's leased as a residential. The tenant has been living there and operating a business of body work. And we got a notice from the county, and we got him to stop all the activities. And he done it again, and we got another letter, and then we made sure that he stops. And then we got advice to apply for a permit and do it the legal way and the professional way, and abide by the county and the standard that's required to operate such business.
I want to ask Doug this as well. Maybe Mark, I'm sorry. Has all that been cleaned up?
The last time I was out there, almost all of it was cleaned up. And there was just a few cars, and that's been a few months ago. When we had gone out there, he pulled a permit to build another building, and we went out there, and that's when I noticed someone was doing body shop activity in that building, and that's when we told them they have to cease and desist and clean that up. And the owners came in, and they said, and they took care of what we asked them to do at the time as far as getting it cleaned up and everything, and told them you're not zoned for that. And then they asked us how to proceed if they wanted to get zoned for that.
So your intent, right, your intent is to have this property rezoned, and then you're going to open up some type of business there?
Well, it's the same type of business, light body work, that meets all the standard of such business.
With the same tenant?
Unfortunately.
No.
Or maybe not.
No, not like that picture.
Well, he's the owner.
I went over there and I make sure I clean it. Believe me.
Yeah.
We work hard to clean it.
Yeah, he's asking, is it going to be the same guy that's living there operating the business? As far as I know, right now, yeah, it's going to be the same guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't get the questions.
Yeah, he didn't fully understood the question.
Doug, if we rezone this property, they couldn't do anything until they presented some type of a site plan. Is that correct?
That is correct. This is different from the last case in the sense that the last case had a pre-existing conditional use permit. This one does not.
That's the reason I'm asking that question. So they couldn't do anything on this piece of property until they presented a site plan that we approved?
That's correct.
All the restrictions we wanted to put on.
Right, because they would, the site plan, depending on what they want, depending on what they end up doing, may or may not come here. If it's just site work, like adding parking areas, some buffering and some fencing, whatnot, they're not actually building any new buildings, that may not have to come back before you. But if they wanted to put up a new structure, then yes, that would have to come back for you as part of, like a new principal structure. They would also have to make sure, being zoned commercially, that these buildings met all commercial codes and commercial fire codes, quite frankly. If the tenant is living on the property and running this, from his house, that's one thing. But if they're wanting to rezone the property and make this just a full-fledged business, that kicks in a whole different set of building and fire codes.
Thank you. I see the red lines. There are some of buildings and that looks like vehicles and something that's over that red line.
Well, understand one thing, what you're looking at here is more of an oblique. It's not a straight up and down shot, so that distorts where the buildings are versus the property lines. It does look like some of those, that back building especially, looks like it's pretty close to that back property line. These are not survey accurate, but when you go on that bird's eye view and it's more of an angle, that does tend to obscure and kind of distort things, so that may not be the case.
But if they did violate some setback, we may have to require them to remove that building.
That, or they could ask for a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals, that's correct. Now, chances are, if they're trying to put up a new building, we're going to say, no, it has to be with, kept outside of any setbacks, because they've got plenty of room to operate.
It's on 7.5 acres, and we're going to utilize the existing buildings, and do a site plan and abide with whatever it takes, to rezone it as such.
We just like to do it the right way. That's why we're here.
Again,
Did I have a commissioner? Okay. Commissioner Bogle?
If you currently own the property and are leasing it to someone, how did you not know that they were doing body work there till you got a letter? I'd like to connect those dots a little bit if I could. I mean, did y'all not know that that was going on before you got the cease and desist letter?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, sometimes I go over there and I see him doing some kind of work, but it's not like the heavy work. I mean, I'm thinking.
Because the buildings look...
Sometimes, he come to me and collect the rent.
Because the buildings look substantial in size and they look pretty new, that I'm just curious, the large, I guess, the middle one there.
That one, I built that one because I bought a nice boat and I want to
park it there.
It's still in there? I mean, do you keep stuff on the property that you're there regularly to know what's going on with the property? So just trying to figure out how that could be, that work could be being done on your property and not know about it. So just want to make sure we understand.
Well, but like what I said, we here, to make it right.
Yeah.
That's why.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug, what was the nature of the complaint that got our attention?
I believe it was the fact that they were running a car repair business on the property. Now, that was because of the noise or the traffic. Mark, do you recall what the nature of that was?
He's asking you, what's the nature of the complaint?
What brought the complaint?
Well, to be honest with you, they did have a complaint in the zoning, but they had a complaint in the zoning, but I actually found this myself when I went to look at this other building, and we wanted to make sure that once we saw these cars here, that they weren't building another building to expand whatever this tenant was doing. So that's when we just stopped everything. Once I actually drove out there myself to look at this other building, and that's when I saw all this other cars. Now, I don't remember what the nature of the complaint from the other neighbor was, who complained on that, but I actually saw that myself, and that's when I stopped it.
Are you able to see this from the road?
It's a good ways back. Mike's going to kind of expand the view just a little bit. You can see this is pretty much what I would call a flag lot. It's got a very long driveway back to the back of the property. So, yeah, you can kind of see, if you're looking real hard as you're driving by, you're standing right there, you can probably see some activity going on, but if you just happen to be driving by, it probably wouldn't catch your eye.
Almost 600 feet.
Any other questions?
One more. Mr. Russell, the new building they were constructing, it has the proper permits and everything?
Yes, sir. They pulled a permit to build this other building for personal storage.
That's when you noticed the other
And I
part.
just, it's for that reason, our inspector was off that day, and I picked up the inspection and went out there, and that's when we saw these cars, and I said, whoa, we got to figure out what's going on.
Thank you.
And notified them, they came in.
Anyone else? If not, thank you, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
I'll now open it up for public hearing. Anyone has any comments, either for or against, we ask that you come forward this time. I don't see a mad rush coming this way, so I'm closing the public hearing. Commissioners? Comments, questions, or a motion?
If I could kind of follow up on some of the things that we've talked about earlier. Flag lot that goes back, in essence, surrounded by residential zoning. Is that correct, Doug? Pretty much.
With the exception of that one property, well, I'm sorry, yeah, right there, with the exception of that property, then yes, primarily residential around it.
Okay, and I think I just heard Mark say that there was a permit for personal storage.
That was the permit for the new building that was being built. The existing building was already there. I don't remember when that building was built because I didn't have anything to do with that one, but he pulled out the new building for the personal storage, and I think he said he's going to put his boat in there. But when I saw those other cars and that other building, then alarm went off, so.
I know this is different than the one talked about. Believe it or not, my mind is always trying to say yes to a person that is trying to expand a business or build a business. It's really trying to say yes. But they've been operating a business there and without the proper zoning, so they really shouldn't have been operating anything there, correct?
Correct.
And the gentleman that came up said that they had leased this property, if I'm not mistaken, leased this property knowing that this guy was going to operate a business. So I'm just trying to put two and two together to see where we are and how we got there. So if the owners of the business knew that this person was operating a business out of there, I'm not sure that they're not following our procedure. I've got some concerns about this as it relates to not doing what we ask every Rutherford County citizen to do when they're wanting to rezone a piece of property. And of course, it's just me personally. This is not the planning commissioner speaking. For a long time, I've been sick and tired of this. And it's just got to freaking stop at some point in time. And I don't know what to do about this. Have you heard anything from Commissioner Pete?
I think he's aware that this is here. Now, I haven't spoken to him recently about it. Generally, I know that if he gets a lot of calls about things, he usually shows up at the meeting to make his concerns known and to make his constituents' concerns known. But I haven't heard from him on this one, at least recently.
There, the difference I see, this is attached to commercial zoning. And I know by experience that commercial zoning was a auto repair shop. It's not currently, to my knowledge, but in my teenage years, I spent many hours there in my junk car. So, I mean, it's not new, a auto repair shop is not new to this area because the commercial zoning that is attached to this was auto repair. That's the difference I see. You know, I do not want to reward bad behavior, of course. But that's the big differences I see in the zoning.
There are a lot of differences, and I agree with that 100%. Plus, we would also have the opportunity to, at site plan, to put whatever restrictions we wanted to put on this as far as the number of vehicles and indoor work and all those kind of things.
Well, not so much the number of vehicles. The zoning doesn't really give us the flexibility to put those kind of conditions on there. Now, it does give us the ability to say you have to have at least a type 2 screen around these residentially zoned properties. You have to have paved parking. If you're going to have any kind of outdoor storage areas, they need to be screened from public view. We do have those kind of abilities, but anything like the number of cars, hours of operation, things like that, there's nothing in the ordinance that would allow us to regulate those kind of items.
So, I'm sorry. But our real decision tonight is to decide whether this piece of property is suitable for industrial.
Commercial zoning, correct.
Commissioner Beavers.
Doug, would they have been required to have gotten a business license before now?
If they would have applied for one, probably. Now, just be...
People who have applied and they're paying taxes and all that.
Yeah.
That they're
Right. Well, and just because they get a business license doesn't always mean they have zoning approval. You can go to the county clerk's office, they'll give you a business license. I think there might be something on the form, I'd have to double check, but I want to say that they had added something at some point on the form saying that, hey, you may make sure you follow all zoning regulations and things, but they don't enforce those kind of things. So they could just tell the person that. The person doesn't want to do it, they're just going to go get their business license. I can't tell you how many times we've dealt with zoning enforcement cases where we hear just that, where they say, well, I got my business license, so I'm okay. But no, you're not. You're not zoned properly for that. Well, why'd they give me a business license? Because it's a different office. They don't handle those kind of things. So we run into that fairly frequently.
Chairman Reed, just for reference, this is Bud's Tire Shop right here near Woodcraft at Zone Commercial Services, and then the property to the south is Charlie Fair's grandfathered in quarry. Happened a long time ago before, I guess, most zoning, but that's what's happening here. Even though it's zoned residential, it's got a special exception, I think.
It does. Well, it's a conditional use.
Or conditional use, yeah. It says SE, I didn't know.
Is that quarry still in operation?
They're filling it back in with waste material from other construction sites. So, yes.
So if we approve this tonight, we got buildings on it, does that mean he'll have to come back to you with a site plan?
Yes, it does.
I'm gonna move that we approve this with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Any other comments?
Real quickly, Michael, the narrow strips of property to the west, those are all residential?
Yes.
Yeah, those.
Yes, these are all residential, yes, sir.
And immediately behind it, that's part of the quarry property?
Yes, sir. It has a long strip that goes off to Woodcraft, but they access this from John Bragg Highway.
Okay. And then those three or four pieces, are those residential over on the...
They use the strip that Charlie Fair owns to get to their houses, but yes, sir.
Okay, so you have housing to the south, you have housing to the west, you've got a quarry also south, and then you've got Bud's Tire up there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got you.
Other questions? Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Jim Averwater? Yes. Jeff Phillips? Yes. Mike Cush? No. Lee Bogle? No. Charlotte P? Yes. Trey Gooch?
Yes.
Jim Thompson? Yes. Jason Beavers? No. Amber Brown? No. Pettis Reed?
Yes.
That's 6-4 and 4 against. Motion carries.
4-4?
6-4.
6-4? It passes. Motion, as it does carry. Moving to item 3. Jeff Moody for M2 Development LLC, REZ 25013. Location is Sledge Road and Miller Road. Commissioner District is Jonathan Beverly. Size of site is approximately 43 acres. Tax map is 156, parcel 48. Existing zoning is residential medium density RM. Proposed zoning is a planned unit development for contractor storage mulching business. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir, thank you. The applicant, as you stated, intends to zone this property to planned development, to allow for a contractor storage of equipment and materials for a mulching business and also to provide an area for trailer storage. This development is broken into 2 phases. There is a copy of the pattern book included on your agenda, with your agenda materials on your iPads. Phase 1 is along Sledge Road, will consist of a gravel storage area for mulch, equipment, and trucks. Phase 2 is along Miller Road, which will consist of a portable office building, parking area, along with storage area for tractor trailers, boats, and RVs. You'll see a conceptual layout shown on page 8 of the pattern book with allowable uses shown on page 9. The list is not exclusive to the proposed uses that we just discussed, but they are pretty limited compared to some other pattern books we've recently looked at. There was a neighborhood meeting held on May 1st of this year. Consistent with our regulations, there were a handful of people in attendance. The applicant discussed the project, answered some of the questions about timing, appearance of the property, and other related questions. You'll see that page 8 of the pattern book shows the proposed access points and parking areas. Mike will bring that up here in just a minute as he's going through the pattern book. Phase 1, as I stated, is proposed as a gravel lot for the storage of mulch equipment and trucks. Phase 2 does show a paved area for office parking, but gravel storage, originally at least, for the boats, RVs, and tractor trailers. We expressed a lot of concern about that, the way that was shown, and they have changed the pavement area to tar chip as opposed to just a gravel type storage area. Of course, with any development that's non-residential in nature, they would have to do an engineered site plan. Something else to point out about this, and Mike may address this in a little bit more detail, you'll see that there are some stream buffers on here. There's a couple of named tributaries going back to the middle fork of the Stones River. You'll see that they've got stream buffers on both sides of those, some existing wetlands on the property as well. They are showing that they are staying out of those areas, maintaining them, and also providing for some on-site detention as well, which we would expect from any commercially zoned piece of property. Non-residential planned developments do not require any open space set-asides. However, they are, like I said, providing those buffer areas for the stream, as well as a 50-foot wide vegetative screen along Sledge Road. And also along the western property line, and they've also called out a 3-foot tall berm with landscape yard along the frontage of Miller Road, as you can see on the concept plan as well. Of course, as I stated, an engineered site plan would be required to be submitted, showing the landscape plan design and consistent with all site plans that we look at, and our performance standards would also apply. When we first sent these comments out that are in your agenda packet here, we were still awaiting the revised pattern book. We did get that late last week, so what you have here is the revision that we're looking at right now. That is what is on your iPads. We did have quite a few comments. They have attempted to address those comments. For the most part, I would say a lot of the concerns, at least from a zoning standpoint, some of the questions we have, that they have addressed some of those things. There were some other comments in there regarding, the pavement being used for tar and chip. There were some questions in there about road improvements along Sledge Road and Miller Road. No improvements are necessarily proposed for this project at this time. But with that, Mike, I didn't know if you had any additional comments on this, but I'll turn it over to Mike for anything you may have further.
No, and if you recall, the Highway Department upgraded Miller Road and Sledge Road when they built the Plainview Elementary School because those roads were too small and too narrow for 2 buses to pass, and the Highway Department did an excellent job. They put turn lanes in at Miller and on Sledge here, so there's recent improvements on that road network. They have done a stream determination and got that back from TDEC that what Doug mentioned, these are classified as streams here. They have several wetland locations that they're staying out of, and they are providing buffers for those as well.
And the applicant is present if there's other questions as well.
Commissioners, applicants for here.
On development standards, maximum building area. Entire tract, or is that for each building?
I believe that's for the entire track.
Other questions? If not, we'll ask that the applicant come forward. Matt Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman. Matt Taylor of SEC, 850 Middle Tennessee Boulevard here in Murfreesboro. Got my clients in the back here, Mr. Moody. Mr. Moody operates the Moody family's been a business here in Rutherford County for as long as I've been here. Their office is up on Forbes, just on the other side of the interstate. And the primary reason behind this particular application is really related back to that business. Whenever Mr. Moody goes out and starts a construction project, he's clearing that site. And the primary way he does that, instead of burning trees, he typically mulches those. And so he would like to bring that material back and store it here on the southwestern portion, and then they would get loaded up with an occasional tractor trailer. And so the traffic here would be fairly low most of the time. In the mornings, you'll have 5 or 6 employees that would come here, they would leave in a single truck, they'd come back in the evenings. Whenever he is doing the mulching at various projects, he would have some dump trucks that would come here, store the material until there was enough to haul off with a tractor trailer. So it is much different than the facility just to our east, so I want to make sure that that's clear. Would not have that long-term storage. It would be very occasional. I think Mr. Moody told me he operates about 18 to 20 projects a year, and so really that mulching operation is going on at the very first of those projects, and then would be intermittent after that. The rest of the project to the east that accesses off Miller, he does not have any immediate plans for that. He just kind of, at one time up around his business, he had leased to Fleet Trucking and thought, given the proximity to the interstate, he might be able to do something similar where somebody's just storing empty trailers for an extended period of time. And then, as Doug said, we've tried to preserve as much open space and limit our impacts on the natural features. I thought we had a good neighborhood meeting. My clients did a good job doing some door knocking before the neighborhood meeting. I think we had about 3 people show up. It was probably the shortest meeting that I've ever had in 21 years. Explained to people what we're doing, and they were satisfied. They were ready to go. We explained to them that we're preserving trees along Sledge so they're not seeing in to what we're doing, and then we're going to plant additional vegetation and berming along Miller. There's not any good vegetation along Miller today, so we're going to try to create that with the plan. So, and to answer Mr. Averwater's question, we've got one proposed building up near Miller, and then we've got a lean-to about 3,000 square feet down off of Sledge. Those would be the only 2 structures of any kind on the facility. And the site is pretty limited for any kind of other development because of just the limitation of septic or any sort of perking out here. And so we felt like this was a pretty good use. Yes, ma'am.
Matt, will there be any mulching on the property?
No, ma'am.
No,
So
no cutting up.
the only time there'd be mulching is when we're actually doing our construction here, when we would take these trees down. But as an ongoing business, no. We would bring mulch from a construction site, store it here for a short term until we could fill up a tractor trailer. And so the tractor trailers just can't physically access the construction sites is the issue.
We had someone express concern because there's a school in this area, and it's of the traffic of the trucks and going in and out with during school time and with that extra traffic. Are those trucks going to be able to get in and out without
Yes, ma'am.
disturbing?
Yes, ma'am. And I talked to Mr. Moody. He said he would, even whenever he is doing the mulching at a project site, not here, you might have 1 or 2 tractor trailers a week is all that it would be. It's not an ongoing type facility at all. And so it's a very intermittent use. And we would design our radiuses and our entrances wide enough so that all those trucks can get in and out of the site safely.
Chairman, Matt, you're lucky you've caught me in a night that I'm in a really good mood, so.
Maybe I need to go buy a lottery ticket.
Just out of curiosity, this looks like a challenging piece of property.
Yes, sir.
How do you protect those wetlands?
So typically what we'll do is along streams and wetlands, we'll typically go in and on our initial erosion control, before they really start doing anything else, they'll go in and put up silt fence. A lot of times we'll use wire back silt fence. And then sometimes we'll even use some orange colored silt fence to really tell the contractor, hey, we're not doing this. We're not getting in these areas. Sometimes we are crossing and impacting those features. With this particular plan, we're able to avoid them with everything that we've done. So that would be the very first thing that we would do.
Commissioner Brown.
I've got a question for you, Matt. Just, I guess, again, clarity on vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
What I heard you say was like 18-wheelers and did you say dump trucks as well? Because I'm just trying to envision what's going to be on the roadways in that area.
Yes, ma'am. And so they would have dump trucks come from a construction site where they've loaded them with the mulch, and then they would dump it at this particular location. And then whenever there was enough mulch to load into a full semi, they would bring a semi onto that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else?
Thank y'all.
I think that covers it. We'll now open for a public hearing. Anyone would like to come forward? Address this? Yes, sir. Give us your name and address.
Tony Elgin, 5718 Sledge Road. My property is directly across Sledge Road from the proposed track. We share about 600 plus feet of road frontage. My house is 800 feet off the road. From my front porch, I can see almost the whole western half of the property. My questions are, I firmly believe that a person should be able to do what you want to do with your own property, limited by not imposing on your neighbors. This property, it's been abandoned. I won't say abandoned. It's been obviously had an owner, but it was an old farm. It's grown up, limited farming the last 20 plus years. CUD came through on the north side of Sledge Road a few years ago and laid their 16-inch water line. They cleared 50 feet plus of the trees and underbrush out of there. So from the road to the existing tree line is more than 50 feet. So my question is, what is this undisturbed vegetation? Right now it's briars and Johnson grass and little small shrubs. So that's not much of a barrier. So, and that's my biggest question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, we'll close the public hearing.
Doug, there were some questions that you had you reserved. Have those been addressed?
Yes, and that was, I mean, I kind of alluded to some of those at the beginning. When I made these comments originally, the pattern book, we were still awaiting the revised pattern book. So the revisions have been made. As you know, like I said, some of the bigger concerns that we had, of course, had to do with the buffering, as this gentleman was just talking about. Trying to see what that was going to entail, especially along Miller Road, which they have, stated they're going to put a berm in, a smaller berm, but then some plantings to go along with it. As far as the specific material, I don't know if Matt might speak a little bit more to that, as far as the materials and things that would be present with that. Of course, we've got some standards in our ordinance that deal with that. I think the other had to deal with the material of the parking area for the Phase 2. It was gravel originally. It's now more of a tar and chip type situation, which does qualify as a hard dustless surface. That can count, but it may not stand up as well as, say, like traditional asphalt or even concrete or something like that. I think those were our biggest concerns that we had regarding.
Would you have a recommendation at this point in time?
We're more comfortable with it than we were, so I'll say that. And I think Matt wants to talk a little bit about the buffering, at least, to help answer that gentleman's
Mr.
question.
Taylor, come forward, maybe answer that question.
Oh, Matt's coming up here. Mike, are you okay with the plan as it relates to the wetlands protection and?
Yes, sir, and we'll address that more thoroughly on a site plan.
So I think the question was how we're addressing the Sledge Road. And so whenever we do our site plan, we'll do a detailed survey and we'll locate it exactly where those trees are. If we need to have more than 50 feet, we'll do more than 50 feet. I was thinking it was like a 30-foot easement through there, but my client wants that area to be screened. He really, not that he doesn't trust his neighbors, but he don't want them looking in on him as much as y'all don't want to be looking at what he's doing. And so if we need to move that to 75 or 80 feet, to be effective screening for him and y'all, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I will take a motion.
Move to approve with staff comments.
We have a motion with staff given. We have a second. Any further comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It has been approved. Just remember, all zoning and regulation amendment requests will be considered at the August 14th Board of Commissioners meeting unless deferred or withdrawn by the Planning Commission. Staff reports and other business.
I don't have anything further other than to say that, well, of course, Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to steal your thunder. I know you probably would announce this, but I'll just go ahead. Our next, since you asked, yeah, since you asked, our next regular Planning Commission meeting will be on June 24th. That is a Tuesday, not a Monday, due to the Board of Commissioners meeting in here on the 23rd for the next fiscal year budget. Just be aware of that. However, that night on the 23rd, we will be having our first public hearing on Plan Rutherford in this room at 6 p.m. So I just want to make sure that, well, looks like I kind of got a couple different things there on there. I need to fix that. But that meeting is at 6 p.m. and has been advertised as such. So, but just so you know, our next regular meeting is June 24th, which is a Tuesday. And that'll be at 9 o'clock in this room.
Just remember, you have two meetings on right close to each other on that week. So something a little different. There's no other business. I move we adjourn.